Hey, I'm Lisa Singer, and this is Brand Insider BTS, where I get to pull back the curtain on some of the most influential women marketers today. And with me is Jennie Smythe. She is the president and CEO of Girlilla, or is it Girlilla Marketing? Got to get the girl in there.
I
Um,
got to get the girl in there.
Got to get the girl in there. And you also are a breast cancer survivor, which that right there definitely is so wonderful. I
Thank
love
you.
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, especially, I wanted to have you for October, of course, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And we're going to talk about what you've been doing and whatnot. But first, I just want to ask you, how are you? Like, how are you today?
I am really good today. I am it's interesting because um as you go along in a breast cancer journey, you realize that survivorship is an active situation, that you continue with testing and medication and other surgeries and whatnot. And so as I'm talking to you today, in October, I'm 2 months out from a recent surgery and I'm hitting 8 years on my medication, my post survivorship medication. So, and I just had labs. And so I'm sort of fresh from the continued experience, and I'm always grateful to be happy and healthy, but today, especially as I'm sitting here, I'm even more sort of rooted in that today.
Oh, that's so wonderful. I'm so happy for you. And I mean, because obviously I can't imagine and put myself ever in your situation as much as we try to be empathetic for people like yourself or anyone going through any type of disease like this. But when you say you feel like how much is it like do you I guess how much did it change you from when it was when you were first diagnosed to today to really, especially now you even said it's kind of like a I'm good, I'm okay. Does
Yeah,
that just want to do so much, or
mhm.
what does that make
All of
you?
it, like all those questions all rolled up into one. So you go through stages. Obviously, you go through the patient stage and you go through the unknown stage. And for me, my experience, I was extremely grateful to read other people's experiences online and really grateful for celebrities who had put their stories out there. Because it was, the last thing I would ever recommend to anybody doing what I do, which is digital marketing, is to look up a medical issue on the internet, right? Because it
We're
doesn't
all
matter, right? It doesn't matter what it is, you are gonna die. If you look it up, it's gonna be the
yeah,
most extreme situations online. And with breast cancer, especially, um, having trusted sources like Susan G. Komen or, Gilda's Club, like people that really cater to um, patients who are actively in treatment, and then to have these, very public facing stories that you could really rely on is extremely helpful in the throes of diagnosis. Then you kind of go through and everybody's journey is a little different depending on what kind of cancer, what stage, their age, all of that. But for the most part, my story was very, uh, I don't want to say normal. There's not a normal when it comes to cancer, but I'd say I was very typical of an early stage cancer that was detected by a mammogram. And the surgeries that I had and the chemo that I have I'm in the middle. Like my type of cancer is in the middle. It's not the most aggressive, but it's not the most passive. So it was a very aggressive treatment program. But I mean, sitting here 8 years later after diagnosis, like you have to give credit where credit is due. So, every day is a choice for me to live a little bit more
yeah,
gratefully.
yeah,
Um, but then you become you you the thing is with breast cancer. Most of it is a lot of us have to deal with hormone-based cancer. And so we don't necessarily get to ring the bell. We don't use the word remission.
Right.
We use the word like undetected. We use the word finished with treatment on maintenance. Like it's very, there's a certain vernacular to it that allows me to tell people where I'm at so that they understand, but also understand that it's something that I deal with every single day. And
Mhm.
the fear of recurrence is something that's very real for survivors. So in this stage where I'm at now, 8 years later, my one and only job is to remind people that research um and funding is the only way to stop this. And as I sit here today, 8 years after diagnosis, there's a very real chance that I'm going to see a vaccine for breast cancer in my lifetime.
Wow.
And that wasn't the case 8 years ago. So that gives me a lot of hope and gives me a lot of motivation to keep on keeping on.
Right. And well, I mean, in a sense, one, that's just because it's a women's disease. And let's just put it simply. And, I've spoken with many healthcare marketers, and that's one of the things they're always touting is they need to get that out more, where whatever it may be, there needs to be more research done, more work done to help women's health issues. And that's
That's
just
it.
a given. And breast cancer, of course, is one of them. And that's something, it's actually, I've always been, I have it in my family, not my direct, like not my mom or sister, but aunts, I've had a number. So I've always, like, since early, like since like 30, just going and getting mammograms and ultrasounds and all that. So, but it's scary. It's just, and then you now are experiencing it. As you mentioned, Susan G. Komen, that's a great organization that is helping to raise awareness for breast cancer and to help, you know, create these kind of, vaccines or whatnot. And I know that you are a big part of the Susan G. Komen, and you are one of their people who get out there. You're doing a walk coming up.
Yeah.
I know you're going to speak there. And it's just so important for you to advocate. It's for yourself, of course, but you're taking, and everyone has their own way of dealing with things.
Yes.
You said it's all personal, but you wanted to get it out there. What do you, what do you want to shout out? Like, what is the one thing? Like, you talked a little bit about your experience, but like, what if you could tell women something, or just what's the one thing that you just want to just say?
I want to say that my exposure to an organization and many organizations, but for me personally, Susan G. Komen, is that they were a trusted source of information. Full stop.
Yeah.
In every sense of stage that I've gone through thus far. But the thing is that they grow with the patient. So for me, starting as a patient, moving into advocacy was not a straight journey. It was, riddled with all kinds of turns and twists. But I did not want to be here. I don't want, I did not raise my hand to fly to Washington, D.C., and sit with my state legislators and talk to them about breast cancer research. I mean, I did technically raise my hand because they asked it, but I didn't foresee this
Years
on
ago,
my
you wouldn't have, right,
right. This wasn't on my bingo card for life.
right.
I would talk to anybody about digital marketing and music and entertainment stuff all day long. But the idea that we are so close and making progress, like I think the criticism sometimes for a large organization like Susan G. Komen is that it takes a lot of money to run those big companies, but it takes that kind of power to make change in our political system. That's just with any industry. So I am grateful for all women's cancers that Susan G. Komen is there because obviously breast and ovarian and uterine cancer, like these things are all also connected because they're also in women's bodies. And I didn't understand until I was a patient what it cost to care for somebody who is going through cancer, what we can do to prevent it, but most importantly, what we can do in the future to eradicate it.
Right.
So I walk, there's in San Diego, there is a 60-mile walk in November. They have them in several different locations, but I went as a patient and talked my crazy friends into going with me. And we walked 60 miles, and it was the first time that I was around women in person doing something extremely physical, but like I'd be walking behind somebody and she would have a on her shirt she would say she was a 30-year survivor. Um
Wow.
See men there walking after they had lost their loved ones walking in their honors. Um Seeing children of moms that had passed away walking with their picture, and it just became a thing for me where I said after I completed the walk, first everybody always says they're never going to do it again, and I mean on day two I was walking, I had supremely horrible blisters happening, and a stranger, they call it the pink bubble. But a lady in the pink bubble said, "How you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm never doing this again." And she goes, "See you next year," and laughed and walked away. I was like, "What's going on with that crazy lady?" And here I am.
Doing
Um,
it again.
Not only doing it again, but also honored to be giving opening remarks as a survivor. So I do believe in the full circle of it. And I do believe that I receive a lot more from the connections that I make through that organization than I could ever raise money for.
Right.
But it is a trusted source and they're out there doing the good work. It's bipartisan. It's not a political issue. Women dying of breast cancer should not be a political issue. Research to stop that should not be a political issue. And I would just say it's 1 in 8.
Yeah.
And so when you really think about that, the
It's
fact that we all aren't panicky about it, we should be. We
yeah.
should we should work as hard as we can to try to figure out why and how do we stop it.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. It's definitely, I've haven't done the 60-mile walk, but I've
There's
done,
still time to sign up, Lisa.
we'll see.
Okay.
Wait, what day? I think I'm busy. What weekend? But no, I mean, I've done other walks with it. It's just, you do feel, I mean, obviously for yourself, there must be even that much more of a community feeling, or just being able to just experience in a deeper way. But even just myself being there and like walking for cousins and aunts, um, it is like you feel that community, like anything, when you come together, whatever it may be, when you come together with with one thought, with one experience, that variety of experiences, but for one cause, it can't not help but, make you feel a little bit bigger or better, or it's I always look at it, it's kind of like the wonderful life feeling. You know what I mean? When they all come into
It
the room,
is.
and like it's just you, I mean, you can't help, I cry at the end of that all the time. Like
Of
it's just,
course.
can't help but feel that energy. And it's
And the physicality of knowing that my body can do that. And for me, when I did it the first time, I was pretty new off my last chemo and surgery. And so now, a few years later, because I took a couple years off, um, the fact that my body can do that and that I'm 48 years old, and I gives me something to train for, and it gives me a reason to get up and early and work out and do all of those things. And, in a way, I mean, not that I really require a lot of motivation, but it certainly um, makes it bigger than me.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. And I am wearing my pink.
Thank
I
you.
don't have pink. I'm
Thank you.
like, what do I have that's pink? I'm like, oh yeah, I have this. So I am being in support here.
I
Uh,
love that.
so I want to get back to, so before all this, and when you were just starting out and just trying to figure out what you wanted to do when you were in college, what were you envisioning? I mean, because you've had such an amazing career with Elektra Records and what Yahoo Music,
Yeah.
Warner Brothers. So really on the entertainment side of things, but marketing. And so
Yeah.
were you in like, what was the draw? Was it the entertainment side? Was it the marketing? Like, what were you envisioning for yourself back in college? And then to really, how did you get to now? You're an entrepreneur owning, well, it's been a while now, but you own your own marketing
Yeah.
agency. How did that all evolve?
It's funny. I spoke to some college students not too long ago, and I was reminded of a story about myself. And the story was that when I was in college, what I did didn't exist. The internet did not exist. It was in its infancy. And so the idea of trying to figure out what you want to do at 18 to 22 is rather silly. It's like, why not try some things and figure out what you don't want to do? It's like, who are you? Who are you not?
Right.
Like these are better questions. But at the time I was in college, I was completely disenchanted with my experience. And I knew wholeheartedly that I wanted to be in the business side of music. I didn't really know what that meant. So that came out as I want to get a job at a record label. Um, and I was repeatedly told that was the craziest idea, that would never, why would you do that? Um,
Why?
and
I'm
so that's
curious,
what I did.
crazy. Like,
I
because,
think it's like I tell the story. I went to a guidance counselor and basically said, "Hey, this is what I want to do." And his response back to me is that I should apply to cosmetology school. And while there's absolutely amazing things about cosmetology, that is exactly not what I said to him.
right.
And the reality is that most guidance counselors in a public school system are going to have no idea how to guide a student to something that they have no exposure to as well. And again, this is before the internet. So it's like you can't really search how to get a job at a record label or, I
Right.
mean, now it's so nice. Like if you want to just go on Sony's website, you can see all their job openings, just like you were going to apply to a job at Nordstrom's, like it's the same situation. But at the time it seemed really far-fetched. It seemed like a closed network and I was able to sort of circumvent the system and figure out that the way to get in there is through an internship. And I went through all the proper channels of, a trade school situation and calling friends of friends and trying to figure it out. But it was really an adult dancer um, through a band who said, I actually know how to do this.
By
And
adult, or you don't mean someone who's over 18.
right,
Okay.
right. An entertainer, if you will.
Okay.
And she ended up giving me the best career advice of my life. And it was simply stated, I will help you. Don't mess this up. And when you get there, you better turn around and you better help somebody else.
Wow.
And I
Okay.
was like, okay, will do. And
Hmm.
that's exactly what I've been doing for 25 years.
Wow. So you eventually opened your own Girlilla,
Hmm.
which I love the name.
Thank you.
But so, and it's an all female.
It is.
So, and
Hmm.
I love that. Like crossing over, taking that, there's a lot of people out there who threaten, oh, I should just open my own, or oh, I don't, maybe I don't want a boss, or I don't, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
That advice you give, like I'm saying to you, I'm done. I'm really interested in X. How do I go
Yeah.
about doing that?
You just have to start. I mean, I think people get so paralyzed by the idea of doing something and planning for something that they don't take the next step, which is to try. And listen, there's risky business decisions happening even in very secure, not even using air quotes, I don't know of any company that's secure right now. Like, I mean, I just think that's a facade. But the idea that you would talk yourself out of doing something because you might fail,
Right.
what's the problem? You know, like if you can financially make a responsible decision to do something that wouldn't hurt your family or whatnot, and you have to, that takes some planning, you know, like that takes some forethought. But I meet more people who say, "Oh, I really wanted to do this, but I didn't. I really wanted to write that book, but I didn't. I really
Yeah.
wanted to be a songwriter, but I didn't write songs." Like at some point, you just have to try. And I tried, and it just so happened that it worked. But I was singularly, I can never say that word,
You got it.
singularly focused.
Yeah. No, but I think one, yes, being focused and not just doing it haphazardly, but also just jumping in. Like I think
Yeah.
that's the best advice, just because what's the worst that can happen? Okay, maybe you lose your job and you're not employed for a while. I don't know. But as
Yeah.
you said, do it responsibly. Although sometimes you don't, and you just have to trust or have faith. But also then if you don't try it, I mean, if you don't make it, then you're not any worse off. You can just go back to what you were doing.
And you'd probably be a better employee. Like my whole thing, my backup plan was if this doesn't work, I'll get a job, which is 18 years later, still my backup plan. And on top of that, if I had, God forbid, I had to go back and work for anybody else because I think I am unmanageable. But if I did, I think I would have such a level of empathy for how to run the company and HR issues and even tech issues, all of that, because I've had to do that, you know, from the ground up. Um, I think I would be a better employee.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Well, you mentioned writing a book, which you did recently. You wrote your
Mhm.
memoir. It's called Becoming Girlilla.
Yeah.
And I have to read because I was looking through and there was all of these amazing people, just, you know, names. You can do name dropping, but they're saying such wonderful things about you and about the book. But I have to read one in particular. So
Okay.
Rascal Flatts, some of you may have heard of that group. And anyway, one of the singers, Jay DeMarcus, he wrote about your book. I want to read it quickly. Jenny's sometimes unbelievable story is a fun, easy ride that will challenge you to push yourself beyond what you perceive to be your limits, while at the same time giving you a virtual handbook of things to avoid from lessons that she sometimes had to learn the hard way. Okay, so what are the limits you pushed yourself like, and what was the hard way? Like what were the hardest challenges that you faced and had to get through?
I think the biggest hurdles were um, certainly my own doubt, my own self-doubt. But once I got past that, it was really building a story for my clients. So I am completely on a limb here, even writing a book, because for the past 17 years, my job has been to be invisible and be supportive. And so and I'm telling you this because 17 years of doing one thing, I want to write a book and share. It felt like I was starting another business over again, and all the feelings that I had had, you know, before 17 years ago came up. And to have Jay DeMarcus, who I'm lucky to call my friend, um, endorse the book. Like I was actually like, I can't tell my clients that I'm writing a book. They're going to think that I'm working harder on my book than I am with,
Right.
you know, than I am on their projects. But folks like Jay not only read it, he helped me with it. You know, he read an early version. He's also a published author. So from an artist to another artist, he
Mhm.
helped me kind of see things from a different side. So that was really interesting. But for me, my work was always, I wanted to just always speak for itself. And if my client was successful and creative and getting good feedback, that was enough for me, like it really was. So I think generationally, what has been an adjustment over the past 5 years is having to be like more face forward as a CEO, as somebody that works in media, somebody that considers themselves a creative. So that's been a little bit of a shift for us. And I do also now have a layer of empathy for my clients, because like what we were talking about jumping into business, the same could be said for social media. There's such a double-edged sword to this world, but you'll never know if there's any benefits if you don't try,
Right.
but it comes with a whole heap of psychological barriers that, you have to be sort of coached through. And I was just primed to be the person that was able to do that just by experience and fortitude. But I would say that being an entrepreneur in whatever generation is always going to be the same. You have an idea, people doubt your idea, you go forward with the idea, and then you find out, you find other entrepreneurs that have done the same thing. You build a community of people that understand those risks, and you end up flourishing because of it.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think as much as it seems like get over yourself, because I'm consumed with those kind of things. I have started a book. I've started, like there's a
Yeah.
lot of things that are on my to-do list. And what stops me the most, and I think not only the self-doubt, but wanting to do it perfectly. Like
Yes.
as a marketer, you've got that down. You know you're good. But then as a writing a, book writer, then
Right.
all of a sudden a whole new thing to try. And because
Yeah.
it's something new, you don't necessarily feel that I got it. And then we self-doubt ourselves and then just we procrastinate it and put it to the back. I mean, I'm talking for me, but I know that so many women like yourself I've spoken with, you got through it, which we need to talk later because
Yeah.
I still try to work on that. So I just think, so what was that one time, like that one moment where you were just like, I'm just doing it? Like all the self-doubt
Well,
that was
I
going on.
will say this, especially with the book, it's never going to be done. The book is never going to be done. It's never going to be complete. Even the idea of writing a memoir as a person who's not famous and a person who isn't so successful that she doesn't have to ever work a day in her life, I mean, like I certainly have an amount of freedom and autonomy in my business that I can do these things. But it's not like, I thought I was going to make money at this book.
Mhm.
Um, Here's the problem though. You're never gonna finish if you don't finish. If you don't say like this is it. And for me, at working with my publisher was so great because everybody on my publishing team at Forefront is all women too. And my publisher Becky finally was like, "This is it. This is the finished version. Like we're going to print." And I just remember thinking, "Oh my God, like this is the most insane idea I've ever had." And when the physical books were shipped to my office, you've seen this social post 1,000 times. The person that unboxes their book and sees it for the first time, and it's like, oh, look at this, I made this. I had to shut my door because I was like, I'm not putting this book out. I mean, I looked at it and thought, this is insane. Why did I think this was a good idea? And then I remembered that it's not, you have to call it a memoir, right? But for me, it was a catch up to now. And everything that I learned because people taught me these things and they guided me through hard times. And it just so happened that I had four people in my life in a very short amount of time who all passed away from cancer
Mhm.
while I was in treatment.
Mhm.
And one of them was my boss, who was super prolific in my career of guiding me and telling me what he saw in me before I ever saw it. So I felt like it was my duty to tell these stories because I was the keeper of the story.
Right.
And so me writing it, knowing that there was a bigger reason behind it than just putting it out there, it was these people all have children. They have spouses that I love. Like I wanted them to know these stories, that they mattered so much to me that I was going to spend my, I was going to try my best to do the right thing.
Mhm.
And that has been the running theme. So me writing the book and going through all of these memories is an exercise that I feel like everyone should attempt, because you find who you are by looking back at what you've done and what you've said. And part of that process is pretty painful, like just some head scratchers of decisions that I've made and some really giant mistakes that I thought specifically for those people that were teetering on the idea of entrepreneurship, if I could just tell them some bombs to avoid, that maybe they would read that and they would either be more responsible online and be nicer online, which I think after everything that we've seen in the month of September, we can all use a reminder on that. And then also like take the shot,
Yeah.
bet on yourself, bet on yourself.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's perfect advice. And I want to ask one more question. We don't have much time, but I
No
did want
problem.
to ask, when you were doing an article with Susan G. Komen, they interviewed you and talked about a lot of different things, which was it was really about your story and what you were going through. But you were quoted at once. So this was, I believe the interview was done last fall. And you were quoted saying, this is you were on your fifth year of the hormone therapy, tamoxifen. I don't know if I'm saying that.
Tamoxifen. Yeah, you said it
Tamoxifen.
right.
Okay, great. So you said, and you said that might be cheesy. I take one, so you take one as in tamoxifen every single night. And honestly, as cheesy as it sounds, I use that as my moment to just sort of thank the universe every day for my day.
Yeah.
So tonight, what are you thanking? What are you thanking the universe for?
I always, even if I have a bad day, or I'm not happy with how I reacted to something, or maybe what I said to somebody, or whatever. Um, Again, I think the biggest thing that I learned over the past few years is that those are growing opportunities. And so when I look myself in the mirror, I really try to tell myself that I did the best that I could today. And I hope that tomorrow is better. And so I think when you ask what I'm grateful for, I think it's just a gratefulness to be able to do it again the next day. And I do try every single day to start over. And that's not easy because all of us have, there's things that are very close to the surface. But for me, a big part of that is work, and I get to come to an office full of people that have amazing energy and we have fun together. And then I go home to two healthy kids. And I mean, what else is there?
Yeah. No,
Truly.
I completely agree. And I think, just it's not that any one of us want your perspective, or I wish you didn't have to have that, but the fact that you've turned it into this positivity and just appreciation, we all should try to get that perspective just in general,
Yeah.
just get it.
And I think breaking it down every day is the trick, because prior to that, it's too big. Like I'm going to be this kind of person. I'm going to do this in my life. I'm going to do what it's like. No, no. What did you do today?
Right. Yeah. And then you can have more control
That's
on
it.
today, this happened, I'll do this better tomorrow, and I'll do this is great. Like, so not
Yep.
everything's a bad thing, like this is what I did good, this is what I'm happy about, this is what I might need to change.
That's
But
it.
that's a small little hole of
Yeah.
so that you
It's
can
manageable.
manageable.
Mhm. Yep.
Well, Jenny, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure talking with you. I really appreciate you sharing your story.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah, well, and thank you for watching. And as I always say, if you know another amazing marketer like Jenny, please let me know, and I will do my best to get her and pull back the curtain. Anyway, thanks again, Jenny.